What are you willing to do to survive?
Strategize, we'll get it on. Here we go.
18 contestants are pushed to the limits, tested to the core in one of the most legendary competition shows in TV history. Survivor Season 49 is back, and it's more exciting than ever, with a familiar face to you this time. Former KENS 5 reporter Savannah Louie battling it out for the ultimate prize.
Honestly, for $1 million, I've done a hell of a lot worse for a hell of a lot less.
I had a special reunion with my friend Savannah in today's Deep Dive with Sarah-Forgany.
How are you?
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I'm good. It has been crazy. It's so weird being on this side of everything. You know what I mean? Like the interviewee versus the interviewer.
Hey, Deborah, I am so happy because today it is Friday. It is Food Frenzy Friday. Yes, it really is cold, but I've got to tell you, some of the deals you're going to find today as part of Dollar Days make braving the cold weather so worth it.
Savannah, I was so happy when I heard, and they were like, did you see she's on Survivor? And I was like, you know, it doesn't surprise me because she is a baddie. Like, I could see her being on there.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, that is like the biggest compliment, first of all. But I mean, yeah, I've loved the show forever. I grew up watching like literally season 1 before I could really understand what was going on in the game. I was just in love with the whole adventure of it. This is my 3rd time applying, and I think 3rd time's the charm. I've always wanted to be on the show, and so it's like seriously a dream come true.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it's so funny. Okay, so before we keep going, I want to introduce you to one of your biggest fans. You already have fans, and the show hasn't even premiered yet, Savannah. This is Marcus Risen, and he's actually a KENS 5 employee now. You didn't get a chance to work with him. He's on our digital department, but he's a big Survivor fan. He's so excited about doing this interview.
Oh my God. Marcus, it is so good to meet you. I feel like KENS family, like family forever, no matter like when you work there. So it's so good to meet you.
Yes, it's so nice to meet you too. Sorry if I'm a little starstruck. One of my dreams is to interview a Survivor contestant. So when everyone was saying like, "Oh, Savannah's gonna be on Survivor, Savannah's gonna be on Survivor," I was like, "Who's Savannah?" And they're like, "Oh, she used to work here." And I was like, "She used to work here? That's crazy." So like, you know, the KENS to Survivor pipeline might be something.
That is so funny. No, Marcus, we're like basically family now. Don't worry.
Oh, that. Yes. Love that.
And you know what's funny, Savannah? I was talking to my boss earlier, Jack Acosta, who's your former boss, and I told him that I was going to be interviewing you today. And he was like, I remember when she sat in front of me in that office all those years ago, and she always said she had dreamt of being on that show.
Yeah, you know, I can, funny enough, remember those conversations with Jack too, because we've both been fans of the show since like forever. And I've told Jack probably more than once, okay, I'm going to be on the show. It's going to happen. I've told people from back when I was in high school that I was going to be on the show. So like, seriously, this is the kind of thing where you get in your head when you're like in your teenage years, your preteen years, and you never give up. And I feel like there's very few things like that stick with us like as we become adults, but this is one of them, and it's honestly like very surreal that it's actually come to fruition.
So this is the 49th season that you're on. How long did you watch the show for? Was it like your entire life? Like how young were you? Because you're not that old.
I appreciate that. First of all, I appreciate that. No, I started watching like season 1, seriously. I think I was like 6 or 7 when that came out. And just to give you a little perspective of how young I actually was, there would be scenes where there would be naked people on the camera. There might be people kissing in the first few seasons. I was so young that my parents actually made me like leave the room during these scenes because they're like, okay, Savannah, this is not appropriate for you. And then funny enough, you know, the first time I applied for the show, I was 17 years old and I didn't get on, and I was so butthurt about it. I actually had to take a couple years where I didn't tune in just because I was so competing. But for me, Survivor's been like that comfort blanket. As you get older, it's always kind of been there. Even though the show's changed quite a bit since it first premiered like 25 years ago, it's been that constant thing for me where I can always go back and just find a little relief and just relax and kind of turn my brain off while I'm watching. It's a great show. It's timeless.
Yeah, but good for you, though. I mean, that's probably one of your best attributes, you know, that probably, I'm guessing, helps you on the show is just like, you know, keep going. You don't give up.
So I'm also super fan. I didn't start watching I didn't start watching season one because I think it literally came out the year after I was born, so I wasn't, but I watched the first season I ever watched was Kara Moen, and I saw John Cochran play, and I was like, if he can do it, then I can do it. So and like you, I applied literally as soon as my 18th birthday hit. Like I had the Survivor application on my like desktop, and I was like, bang, try to get on there. But I'm glad I didn't play when I was 18 because I'm very different now, and I don't think I would have done well as an 18-year-old. But with that, all that being said, was it as a fan going into it, was it everything you expected and dreamed of, or was it different as soon as you entered the island?
Oh my gosh, I've told this to a few people, and Marcus, you can probably relate because you've seen so much Survivor. You can watch like a million episodes of the game, right? You can watch hours and hours, and you can go on Reddit, you can go on Google, you can ask all of these questions. What is it like to actually be out there? But until you actually set foot on that beach, I can guarantee you any research that you think you've done is going to go out the window. Even I'm thinking back to the first like few minutes when we set foot on that beach. I was so nervous. My adrenaline was through the roof. And I've been in crazy situations before. I mean, whether it's from my reporting experience, being at crazy scenes for a story, whether it's some of my own traveling as a solo traveler or competitive sports as a teenager, like I've been in some very high stress situations, but I cannot think of another moment like that even compares to the first few minutes that you're on the beach and your heart rate is just through the roof. It's a mixture of like this incredible excitement, but also a lot of fear at the same time. And I think that we as human beings like very rarely experience those two at the same time to that large of a degree.
Yeah, and I'm sure with Jeff Probst there too, just like in the flesh, I'm sure you're just like, oh, he's here. That's how you know.
It's so funny, like growing up with the show, like, okay, I'll be real with you guys. Jeff started this show obviously like 25 years ago. He's a good looking man now, but 25 years ago, like he was pretty hot, right?
Is that why you watch Survivor?
He was almost in a weird way, like a little bit of a crush for several years. And so then you see this man in person, you're like, oh my gosh, like a childhood crush. Plus, with my background being on TV in a weird way, he was also someone who I looked up to, almost like a mentor without actually getting feedback from him ever. And so just that mix of being with someone who I have so much awe and respect for at the same time, it was definitely nerve-wracking.
Well, let me ask you this, because Mark has brought up a good point, about being young and being on the show versus now. Do you feel like you are a lot more prepared now that you are a little older, and maybe that's why you're doing really well now in the show versus if you had gotten it back then?
I thank God every day that I did not get on that show when I was 17. Because I'll tell you this much, because I don't want to give away too much, obviously, with the season. But there's obviously going to be moments where you embarrass yourself on camera, right? You're being filmed constantly when you're out there. So there's going to be some moments that I know I'm going to look back on and be like, oh man, why did I do that? Why did I say that? And I can tell you right now, there would have been a lot more of those when I was 17. I've learned so much, not only like through my career as a journalist, you're meeting so many different types of people in so many different types of situations with so many different backgrounds, right? But just learning also a lot more about myself over the past, it's been almost 15 years since I applied, I think I've become a more confident version of myself, for better or for worse at times. And overall, I think my life experience, that extra 15 years or so, helped me out big time in the game.
So all those scenes your parents wouldn't let you watch as a little kid, Savannah, are they prepared for what's to come on this season? Is there going to be anything like that made you feel like, oh no, my parents are going to be watching this, maybe we shouldn't go this way?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I have a partner, I have a boyfriend, so I'm not making out with anyone on camera. Fiji. So my parents will be happy about that one. Other than that, though, I'm trying to tell them as little as possible going into the season because I do want them to be surprised, right? I want them to go on this crazy journey with me and see a lot of these things that happen for the first time. And there's always going to be a little bit of, I think, fear in the back of your mind, like, shoot, what's the worst thing I said or the worst thing I did when I was out there? Didn't make the cut, I've given my parents a little bit of warning, but they've both said, like, Savannah, no matter what, we are proud of you. And I think the thing that we're all choosing to focus on right now is like, I am in the process of doing something I've always just dreamed of. And there is always going to be the opportunity, to be worried about certain things. But I think right now we're just really trying to focus on the good because there is a lot of good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Who are some players that you looked up to and was like, I want to play like them, or just people who got you into the show in the first place?
Oh my gosh, I hate saying this, but I've always been a fan of the villains. Just because, from a fan perspective, the villains made the game very fun to watch. Not because they're mean people, right? But because a lot of the times the villains were the ones who were thinking out of the box. Johnny Fairplay, he had this dead grandmother lie that he told the entire tribe that ended up getting him this reward. In the game, there was also another player, Russell Hance, who is basically like the reason why people started finding these hidden immunity idols in the jungle without any clues whatsoever. Both of those men were incredibly creative when it came to the game and innovators of the game, I would say. But other than that, Dee from season 45 and Kim Spradlin, who actually has a little bit of experience at Ken.
Yes.
But
She's a former coworker here as well. I love Kim. We work together
there's
as
something in the
well.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. But both of those women are also incredibly strong, incredible at their social games, incredibly smart, strategic. So when I went out there, even though I like the villains, I was really trying to emulate a game like Dee's or Kim's.
Is that a hint for us? Are you going to be one of the villains on this season? And what was your strategy going in? I mean, are you going to be causing some problems on the island, stirring the pot?
So going into the game, my strategy wasn't necessarily to be a mean person, right? Like, because in my real life, like, I'm not a villain. I'm not like that. But seriously, like, I had read a book before I went out there. I'd read several books, but one in particular was basically talking about how people are easier to manipulate when they are stressed out. And in a game of Survivor, I think a lot of us want to have that control. When you have control over a game that inherently has a lot of twists and turns, it gives you a little bit of an upper hand. So yeah, going into the game, my number one objective was to make everybody feel like we're super close, we're super tight, like we're like family. But once I got my hooks into them, my next objective was to go out there and was to make them stressed. And my hope with that would be that, okay, like they trust me enough to where I can manipulate them when they're in this stressed out state. So,
Did it work?
you'll have to stay tuned. You'll have to stay tuned, Sarah. But I mean, like I said earlier, like you can have a million plans. And once you're actually on that beach in that crazy situation, anything you thought you were going to do, it honestly might just go out the window.
So, being in the news business, it's one of the most stressful jobs, right? It's always rated as one of those high stressed ones. For you, did it help you to come from a newsroom and from a news background? Did you find that helped you on the island and all of your stuff and the competitiveness on there?
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a couple reasons why. I mean, first of all, you are in this high stress situation. Like you guys know, when you're working on deadline, like you got to get stuff done. And a lot of times with Survivor, it felt like there was this sort of weird deadline, maybe at the end of the day when there's tribal council. You have to have someone be up for elimination by the end of the day. And it felt like, okay, we got to get stuff going, right? But in that same vein, I think a bigger reason that my career as a journalist helped me was just because of the social sort of understanding that you have when you go out there. When you look at me and you look at the 17 other contestants, you might look at, just pick two random ones. You might be like, what in the world do these two people have in common? How can they connect over anything? And I think a lot of us who were out there felt like that was going to be the biggest challenge. You have a very limited amount of time to create powerful connections with these people, to try to get these people to trust you. And so when I went out there to go play, I was using a lot of my similar skills that I used as a reporter, trying to forge that connection to get people to maybe interview with you in the reporting world. But in Survivor, instead of getting people to want to interview with me, it would be work with me, trust me, and let's vote together to get someone else out of the game.
That's a good point because I feel like there hasn't been like a reporter type player on Survivor, if I'm not mistaken. I think the closest thing was probably Rick Devens, who was a news anchor.
Yeah.
So using those skills, I'm also a former reporter in my last station, using those skills of kind of getting to know people and learning about things you probably wouldn't know if you hadn't been assigned a story, like that kind of helps you kind of get those social bonds.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, I told someone else before I even went out to Fiji, I'm like, look, if you can survive a newsroom, you can play Survivor. So that was kind of my mantra going into this.
Well, do you think Jack Acosta would survive on the island? He wanted me to ask you.
Honestly, I think Jack would do pretty well. I do think that he might, I don't think he would win, I'll tell you that much. Just because I think people would perceive him as a threat. Jack is the kind of guy who, and I'm just being straight up with you, but like he looks like he's the man in charge. And I think sometimes when you get to a certain point in the game, people look at the people who look like they're in charge and they're like, okay, that person's got to go. So Jack, incredibly strong guy. I think he'd be a great physical player. I think he'd get along socially with a lot of people. But I think honestly, people might see him as too big of a threat around the merge and try to get him out.
All right, Savannah.
Tell him that's a compliment.
He'll love that answer.
He'll be watching this. I'm sure he'll enjoy your answer very much. I am so happy I got to see you today. It's been years. Of course, you and I follow each other on Facebook. We're friends on there. I love seeing your pictures. You're always hiking, traveling, doing something somewhere. So this is so perfect. And I can't wait to watch you on season 49, rooting for you. And
So
hopefully
excited.
you're going to be on season 50.
Thank you guys so much. Sarah, always great to see you. Marcus, great to meet you.
Nice to
Seriously,
meet you.
you should apply. And if you've already applied, just keep on applying.
I will. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, guys.